Hello and welcome to Give and Take, the positives in life. And today's topic is Life is a Dance. And we have a wonderful guest who will introduce herself formally and then we'll go into an informal introduction. So welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. So, I'm Sheila Pearl. I am a relationship coach and intimacy specialist and spiritual teacher. And I have offices in Mount Kisco, New York, and in Newburgh, New York, and also globally because a lot of the people that I work with are virtual. And I do a lot of speaking, so I'm all over the place with that as well. So,
Lovely, lovely.
yes.
Very excited that you're here because you have much to offer many. And I can see that with your blooming personality and your brightness and lightness.
Thank you.
And so much will be gained. And so at this point, if you don't mind, Sheila, I'd like to have the introductory video come on so they could learn some more about you.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Sheila Pearl was born into a musical family, is a former opera singer, educator, and cantor, relishing her current career as the love doctor. Author, speaker, and relationship coach, Sheila has spent the past 35 years teaching others how to create and sustain loving relationships. Ladies and gentlemen, Sheila Pearl.
Bright lights. So I can't see you too well. I'll just imagine you.
We can see you,
Okay, maybe we're here to love wildly, passionately, and fearlessly, whispered the heart. You're gonna get us all killed, yelled the brain. Is it possible that if we lived fearlessly and passionately and wildly, that we would have a delicious life, or are we playing it safe? Well, for 32 years, I was married to the love of my life. And for the better part of our long, wonderful marriage, I did live wildly and love wildly and passionately and fearlessly until my husband began to get very ill. And in the midst of a nightmare that I call dementia and Parkinson's, I was brought to my knees, asking the moon, God, the heavens, what? What is this all about? How in the world can I make this a blessing? Because up until that point in our lives together, it was our goal to make life a blessing. And we did for one another. And then my husband was drifting away from me. And I was bereft. And in being brought to my knees, I asked a question that matters. How can I make this a blessing? Because I couldn't imagine. And in that moment of surrender, I began to meet mentors and teachers who began to teach me ways, modalities, thoughts, energy healing, all kinds of wonderful things I never knew existed that enriched our lives during the latter part of my husband's sweet life. And so by the time he took his last breath in my arms, we were both at peace. And in that process, we had learned to grow together in a way we never had known would be possible.
So Sheila, that was amazing. And there was so many very significant pieces in there that would that you've shared really your heart and poured out your heart, which was very open, and I really like that. Especially the love doctor. Tell us about your love doctor role.
Look, as a love doctor, as a relationship coach, as an intimacy specialist, I assist people in really digging deep to be willing to be vulnerable in their relationships.
Right.
So they can be open to themselves and one another and truly have a loving relationship, which is not stopped by fears and
Right.
and apprehensions about what other people may think of them. Because what I've learned is, if I can love myself and accept myself, I'm not looking over my shoulder for applause or approval.
That's right.
And if you love me, if you like me, great. If you don't, oh well. So as the love doctor, I really help people repair their broken hearts
Lovely.
and repair their broken lives.
Right.
And to see that very often when we're broken open, when our hearts are broken, now we can grow.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all about growth. It's all about learning.
Right, right. And so I like that, Sheila, because a lot of the time we're looking for love in the wrong places. Because first of all, we start with the self. Once we have that love for ourselves, then we can give love to others. And that's where the conflict comes in, because we're looking for love from everywhere but ourselves.
What I've learned in all the work I've done for many years,
Right.
many decades,
Mm-hmm.
is that especially in intimate relationships,
Sure.
when we put our focus on ourselves first,
Mm-hmm.
the relationship is doomed.
Mm.
When I'm in the relationship thinking, what's in it for me?
Right.
When my focus is on what can I get?
Exactly.
Now we're really in trouble, because what
Exactly.
creates the intimacy is being, as I said, being willing to be vulnerable and open to the other,
Mm-hmm.
so that my focus is on giving.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And also being willing to be open to receiving.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And so I like how you put it, though. It's like, okay, not in a selfish way. I do need to know who I am and what my purpose is in life.
Yes.
And so recognizing, acknowledging that and feeling comfortable with that. And so then be able to open to everything else that's out there.
Exactly. Listen, Cicely, we're all learning about ourselves
Yes, we
throughout
are.
our lives.
That's
You know,
right.
if I stop learning and growing, I might as well just stop right now. But the joy and the pleasure is in being willing to discover myself,
Right.
being willing to go into those little nooks and crannies and to find those things about myself that maybe I wanted to put a mask on and cover
Right.
up because I didn't want you to see that.
Exactly.
But if I get to the point, increasingly so, that I can allow you to see me,
Sure.
I can be open, I'm not guarding myself.
Exactly.
Right? And so the relationship has what I call the divine flow of energy,
I like
where
that.
there's the give and the take and the give and receive and the openness and mutual vulnerability, which creates the loving intimacy, which we're
Right.
capable of.
Exactly. Very, very nicely said, Sheila. You're also very theatrical. Did you do some sort? I think it was mentioned of you being an opera singer.
Okay, so long ago in my youth, right, and that was a
Okay.
long time ago,
Right.
I was an opera singer.
Okay, lovely.
And then I met my husband, who was a rabbi,
Okay.
and I decided to leverage that skill and ability and to become a cantor in the synagogue, where I
Okay.
could also use my teaching skills and my social work skills and pastoral counseling skills. And so I was able to marry all those things in
Very
one.
nice.
So I suppose you could say I do have a theatrical background. And maybe it's just part of my nature, because I love to be expressive. So I use my voice a lot in many different ways. You know, I can be maybe very dramatic with a client in my office, just the two of us, right? So, you know, I might even say, "What were you thinking?"
Good. But so sweet how you said it.
Right, right.
I didn't take like, oh, I felt like, oh, I need to get closer because
Exactly.
of the way you said it so invitingly.
Right, right. So the little clip that you showed, where I
Yes.
begin by saying, "What if we're here to love wildly, passionately, and fearlessly," whispered the heart.
Right.
"You're going to get us all killed," yelled the brain. That is really pointing to the dance that we're all doing.
Right.
And in the work I do, whether it's one-on-one with a client or with a couple or with a family, or if I'm speaking to participants in a program or a small audience, larger audience,
Right.
my goal is to help people understand increasingly so that we're all living a dance. We're all
right.
doing a dance.
We
That
are.
there's the ebb and the flow. There's the up and the down. There's the leading and the following. There's the listening, and there's the self-expression.
Right.
All of that is part of the dance that we do.
We do. Very
And the
lovely.
dance between, by the way, being willing to live wildly, passionately, and fearlessly, which is one part of us, the bigger part of the big love part of us, the expansive part, the creative part,
Right.
and then the little ego that says not too fast,
Right.
not too much,
Very
don't
good.
risk, right? And part of where I'm coming from at this stage of life is tick tock, tick tock. What do you mean don't risk? What am I waiting for?
Right.
Right?
Right.
I don't want to live a safe life. I want to live a full life.
Excellent. That's wonderful. Now, Sheila, while we're, the thought is in my mind, please talk about we was talking about your different locations where you have your business. If you want to just share where the address, the phone number, how to reach you, your website, that would be great at this point.
So I have two offices, plus my global office, which is, you can reach me on the phone anytime or on Skype or Zoom. But one of my offices is in Mount Kisco at the Center for Health and Healing. And my phone number is always the same phone number. That's 845-542-6057. And my office in Mount Kisco at the Center for Health and Healing is at 4 Smith Avenue, which is on the corner of Main Street. And I'm a part of this wonderful holistic collaborative of like-minded health practitioners. So I'm so happy to be there. I'm there Thursdays through Saturdays. And my home base is Newburgh, where I've had my office in Newburgh. 75 Broadway. I've been there almost 13 years now. And so I live there, and I also have my office there on Broadway.
So I like how you transformed your life, Sheila, even though you were saying about your husband had the dementia in that clip. Personally, I understand my mother having dementia, so I understand how that is. But to turn it into a positive, and that's what I've done with my mother. I still go see her. I'm still very loving. I spend a lot of time with her. And when it was her birthday, I invited people to the nursing home. We had a birthday party. And so just be so inclusive and loving to her like nothing has changed. And she responds to that so beautifully.
By the way, it's very important with people who are gripped with these diseases, which we call Alzheimer's or
Yes.
other forms of dementia, to continuously be willing to approach them with this open heart and to understand that perhaps they can't hear you or respond to you the way they used to.
Right.
But there's so many channels of them that are open to our loving
Yes.
hearts.
Yes.
So to be present to them and to surround them with music and loving connection and touch, they're very, very responsive to
They
loving
are.
touch. And so my husband's home health aides and I would massage him on a
Lovely.
regular basis, and I would sing to him and play the music that he loved.
Right.
And we know that music plays a very big role in the
Right.
lives of people with different forms of dementia. Yeah.
Lovely. I would like to see the clip now about soulmate. If we could see that now, that would be great.
Hi there, this is Sheila Pearl. The other day I made a post about soulmates, and there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of comments, a lot of wonderful observations and confirmation that what I had posted actually was spot on for a lot of us. And the point of the post was that what we think is our soulmate may actually not be. That sometimes we think of our soulmate as that person that we magically meet, that where everything is blissful and we go off serenely into the sunset and have not much but just pure bliss for the rest of our lives together. And of course, those of us who have been around the block a few times understand that doesn't really work that way. And what I've learned about soulmates myself in my own life, and what I've learned about soulmates in the hundreds of people, if not thousands of people that I've talked with and worked with over the past 40 years, is that the very people with whom we have the closest, most intimate relationship that also drive us crazy are probably some form of soulmate for each of us. And what I'm saying is that on a soul level, there are people that come into our lives to assist us in growing, They might appear as our enemy. They might appear as our chief betrayer. They might appear as our chief abuser in some ways. And yet, it is these people who come into our lives that sometimes hold up a mirror to us so that we could see a part of ourselves that we wouldn't have seen otherwise, so that we could step up to a part of ourselves that maybe we wouldn't step up to otherwise, so that we could experience often a capacity to be courageous when that person who came into our life is challenging us to face our fear. These, my friends, are our soulmates. Not because we go off into the sunset in bliss, not because we feel safe and warm and cozy and cuddly, but because these are the people who bring us up close to ourselves, who force us by virtue of their relationship with us to pay attention to ourselves in a whole new way, so that we're not asleep. They wake us up, so that in that waking up, we actually have an opportunity to transform, to become the magnificent human beings we're born to be. And I do know that significant growth never takes place in the comfort zone. So think about the people who've been in your life, the ones that poke you and prod you and trigger you, the ones that make you feel like you want to punch them in the face and just scream and shout. They're probably some form of soulmate. So say, thank you. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being such a pain. Thank you for being such a challenge. Thank you. Think about it.
Sheila, I absolutely love that. And I could relate to that in every aspect of that.
I got a lot of likes and comments
I'm
on Facebook
sure,
with that. It was a
I am
long
sure.
thread. Yeah.
So thank you to all of them.
Oh,
It
yes.
has brought me where I am today.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's not that you have to live with them, although
Oh,
sometimes these are the people that you actually can benefit from living with,
sure.
right? And as I say, you know, the caveat is if it's an abusive relationship,
Right.
I don't suggest people stay for a second in any kind of
Exactly.
abusive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But even when there are, and I work with a lot of people who have or who are in one and they're trying to get out, or they've been in one and they're demonizing the abuser, we need to find some way to find our peace with that and to have
Sure.
compassion for that. Whoever's being abusive, believes me, is suffering with their own demons, and it doesn't make their behavior okay.
Right.
But it's inviting us sometimes, and I've worked with people who needed to get out of a dangerous situation, and I've urged them and mentored them to get to a safe home
Right.
and things like that. But you see, the abuser was challenging these people who were afraid to leave because they were afraid they couldn't go on their own. They were
Right.
afraid they had to remain with the abuser because the abuser was the one who made all the money. And so the challenge was for them to step up to themselves,
Right.
to get out of that situation, and to then finally discover, oh, I can make it on my own. So sometimes that is the gift. And also, there are many gifts in relationships which are contentious, which, you know, people poke each other and drive each other crazy.
Right.
But it's the kind of thing where if the two people who are at war with each other can take a deep breath and look at one another and actually, and this is one of the homework assignments I give couples, engage in radical acceptance of each other. So the focus isn't on having to have you change for me to be happy,
Exactly.
right? And somehow, and by the way, I officiate at weddings, so it's one thing I didn't say, but it's one of the
Right.
things I do. It's one of my favorite things.
Lovely.
So before I proceed with agreeing to serve a couple for a wedding, to officiate at the wedding, the first question I ask them, is there anything about the other that you want to change? And if the answer is yes, I suggest they change the wedding date.
Exactly.
Because if the focus is on, if you change this and this and this, I'll be happy,
Right.
the message energetically, spiritually to your partner is, that this is not unconditional love.
That's right.
This is not full acceptance.
That you have to change in
You
order
have
for
to
me
change
to
for
be,
me to be happy.
accepting,
Now
right?
you're already in a contentious, defensive.
And that
feeling.
energy is there.
The energy of feeling criticized or attacked is in the space.
That's right.
Right? And
Absolutely.
the intention is there, and it messes everything up. So sometimes when people are polar opposites, it's a very interesting test of our ability to, first of all, accept everything about myself,
Right.
so then I can accept everything about you. And I'm not saying it's easy.
And this way you will change the atmosphere of that space.
Exactly.
Because if you're going in with something that you want to change or any kind of negativity, that's the space you're creating between the two of you, for yourself, for them, and in the middle. And so you don't want to do that. You want to, and it's very good that you say, listen, this is not going to work. And you say, you need to think about this, work yourself through it, see where you are in a few months from now. If it's still the same, then I think you might want to consider again, or just completely forget it and be honest.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right, be
So
honest.
the three levels of red flags and danger in relationships, and especially intimate relationships,
Right.
those relationships where you're living together and you're trying to make a life together, the three C's are complaint. It's okay to occasionally have a complaint, but even to check out a complaint so that the complaint can become feedback, right? Because the complaint can very quickly merge into criticism.
Absolutely.
And now any form of criticism feels like an attack.
That's
so it
right.
creates these barriers, right? And then, of course, the really hot zone, the really, or what I call the red zone, is contempt. Because if the complaint then goes to criticism, then goes to contempt, now the relationship is in real trouble, because now it's the poison of contempt and resentment and festering and simmering. It gets really ugly then.
Right. You know, actually, I do want to talk about your book, Ageless and Sexy.
Yeah.
So, yes.
You mean this book?
Yes, that book, yes.
Yes. This book now is celebrating its anniversary. And so the first week that it launched on Amazon, it became a #1
Lovely, congratulations.
bestseller, which
Lovely.
was exciting. I have the screenshot to prove, anyone who knows about how these things work on Amazon, I'm not saying I sold millions of copies, right? But I sold enough to get to that point, which was, very nice encouragement.
Excellent,
right?
excellent.
Yeah.
Lovely, Sheila. We do have one more clip. That was the 5, was that the 5 something? There was one more clip there was one more that
That's
would
the
like to see
4.
that now.
Well, it's about, I talk about big love. So I'll talk about the aspect of big love that I
Right,
love.
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Sheila Pearl talking about my favorite topic, big love. It's all about big love. What's big love? It's who you really are. It's who you really are without the obstacle of fear. It's who you really are when you can live your life with an open heart, with an open mind, with a mind and a heart open to the possibilities for yourself and those in your life that you love. Big love is what we're really designed to be in the world. Because when we're living inside of big love, you can create loving relationships, not from a place of fear or need or desperation, but from a place of loving and sharing and wanting to be together, not insisting on anything at all. And so in all the conversations we can have about big love, it's about expanding ourselves into something that we're born to be. And as we have those conversations with each other, we support one another, we inspire one another, we hold each other accountable. We don't let each other fall down and fall prey to the fears that so often get in our way. So join the conversation. I look forward to being with you in all the conversations that are coming for us and with us in the whole conversation about big love.
So, Sheila, let's talk about big love as we're winding down to the last few minutes. I want you to share about big love.
Well, as I say in the clip, big love is really about who we are, right?
Exactly.
And I like to say, love is really all there is,
Mm-hmm.
and everything else is a distraction. So what's the major distraction to you being fully who you are, or me being fully who I am, or you out there being fully who you are? And the obstacle between being love and big love and the energy of love is fear, or a variation on fear. So very often fear could show up as anger.
Right.
Anger is the great mask for other things that are more
An
vulnerable.
ego.
Your ego,
Mm-hmm.
right. So big love is really at the heart of all the work I do.
Mm.
And the signature program that I have in all the work I do is called the 4 Portals to Big Love.
Mm.
So it's a life education program. And it's really about, understanding more about who we are in the various aspects of being a human being. And it begins with into me see, which is what intimacy is really all about, right?
Into me see. I like that.
Into me see. I have to be willing to look into me, so and to accept me.
Right.
So I'm willing for you to see into me,
Mm-hmm.
and for me to be willing and able to see into the other.
Right.
That's the way that works. So
Lovely.
there are many aspects to the big love process of
Mhm.
development, but it's all about what we can be in our lives if we just open to it,
Lovely.
if we just allow ourselves to be who we are
That's it.
without the obstacle of fear.
And I just I love how you explain everything, and you put everything in very simple terms, like the word intimacy, and how you broke it down. Just so lovely. And so once we can see beyond certain stigmas and words that are just words, and go deep and dive into it, and then you can bring out the essence, and that's what you call bringing out the essence
It
of
is the essence.
any situation, words, whatever. And so how lovely.
It is. It's
Mhm.
it's the essential, the essence of who you are.
That's right. Mhm.
Without the static, without the obstacles, the roadblocks of that little voice of fear that says, not too fast, not too
Right.
much, don't
Mhm.
risk, don't laugh too much, don't love
Right.
too much, don't trust too
Okay.
much. So
Mhm.
imagine what it could be like if you could remain open.
Mhm. So Sheila, just some last remarks to the viewers, and then we will wrap up. But just the last, just give a few words and what you would like to say to the viewers before we end.
Well, what I really want to say is that when you choose to be willing to dream about the kind of life you want, the kind of relationship you want, and you are willing to believe in what's possible because you know it's within you, I can say that life is always happening for you, not to you, and the universe has your back. So be willing to think big and dream big.
How lovely. I mean, such powerful, insightful, strengthening, empowering words. And so I knew from the get-go that this would be a very, very powerful interview, and that many will gain something from you, Sheila Pearl. You are such a gem to many out there. And so, Sheila, I want to thank you for coming on, and I look forward to us, in this journey
Thank
that
you.
has brought us here together, that will continue. I see that very much. And to our wonderful viewers, I'd like to say, as usual, your level of consciousness is the gateway to your future. Thank you.